Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win, find a way to lose. You can find a way to get fans that want to kick your ass too. And if they don't get the opportunity, then they want one of their favorite fighters to put the bing bings on you. Now look, man, Jaron Boots Ennis versus Teofimo Lopez is about race to some fans. It's not even about Jaron Boots Ennis fighting an accomplished opponent like Teofimo. It's about putting the bing bings on Teo because Teo came out here and said some controversial stuff because Teofimo Lopez knows how to stir the pot, knows how to get people talking, and ultimately he accomplished that. However, at the same time, I think he kind of stepped on his own foot because his career, in my opinion, seems to be in a bit of a downward spiral. But nonetheless, man, some people feel Teofimo Lopez really does have an apparent disdain for black fighters. Now, if you remember, he went off when he was expressing how much he felt like the black fighters, when it came to top rank, were getting the red carpet treatment or preferential treatment, and he was basically being treated like chop suey. He talked about Bud Light, Top Rank, their relationship with Bud Light is a direct result of Teofimo Lopez being associated with Top Rank and ESPN. So he felt that he was the one who deserved to be pushed as the superstar, next superstar, and be the Top Rank's priority over Keyshawn Davis, Jaron, and Shakir Stevenson at the time. Really struck a lot of people wrong the way he went on, and the emphasis he put on the word black when referring to the fighters. Okay. Now, Teofimo used well-known racist imagery when expressing interest in facing, whether it's Terrence Crawford, Gervonta Davis, or any elite black fighter. Okay? Now, when he came out and he said, whichever monkey wants to get the banana, that created a shitstorm. And now they got Jaron Ennis who's getting an opportunity, hopefully, if everything works out, for him and even for Teofimo Lopez to get a great opportunity to fight Jaron Ennis. That the two of them should come together and clash. If the stars line up, there are a lot of fans that are like, Boots, whip Teofimo Lopez's ass. He's a racist. No respect for the sport, no respect for himself, no respect for black fighters. He thinks it's funny. He wants to come out here and say comments and act like, hey, I'm just, stirring the pot, getting people talking. Once they're talking, that's great. When they're not talking, that's bad. Some fans aren't having it. They think his attempt to smoothen things over were rather disingenuous, and there's nothing to giggle about, because they knew the connotations of the statements that he made. They knew that wasn't a laughing matter. And I'm telling you right now, I think if Teofimo Lopez and Jaron Boots Ennis, if they can actually put, ink to paper, I think it's going to get a little bit chippy because, the reporters, if they're doing a good job, they should bring up any and everything, good and bad, to create their storylines and to get a response from the fighters. Now, I do think that there are some people who feel, hey, look, not much is gonna come of any of the crap Teofimo Lopez has said in the past. It's gonna be more of a focus on just him and Jaron Boots Ennis fighting, and a fight to where neither one can afford to lose. Okay? But the fact remains, there are a lot of people, even Hispanics, that just feel like, you know what? You can push the envelope, you can toe the line. This is boxing. They're not getting in the ring to tickle each other. They're getting in the ring to try to beat each other to a point to where either they die, they quit, get knocked out, or they go the course of 12 rounds and they win, lose, or on a decision. Okay? But there are some who still feel when it comes to saying real borderline racist comments that's off limits. Talking about somebody's family, off limits. But anything else is fair play. Now, true enough, a guy like Tank Davis, he does enjoy referring to himself as a gorilla silverback. Unless you've been living under a rock your whole life, we all know just how dominant and powerful a silverback gorilla is. Even a goddamn chimpanzee is nothing to mess with, right? But a silverback gorilla, pretty powerful. And the fact that Tank does refer to himself as that can't be denied, okay? But the thing is, for Teofimo Lopez, it's about which monkey wants to get the banana. Crawford doesn't talk like that. Jaron Ennis doesn't talk like that. You may hear people say, I'm a dog. I'm a real fighter. But what I normally hear boxers, when they refer to themselves, they call themselves dogs. They call another fighter who really gets in there and goes all out, they call them a dog. They don't call each other monkeys. Okay? So, Crawford for sure doesn't refer to himself as a gorilla or nothing. All right? Crawford doesn't do that. So, for anyone who's trying to defend Teo, for him to come out and say what he said, even he said he was aware of his words and he knew, excuse me, he knew exactly what he was doing when he made the comment. But regardless of how Gervonta, Terrence Crawford, right? Regardless of what colorful terms they use to describe themselves, the whole world knows it's a fact that if you call or refer, look, man, to black people as monkeys and apes, it's a long-standing racial insult all over the world, okay? Especially in the U.S., but all over the world. Okay, now this shit goes back literally hundreds of years, and I'm not here to give a history lesson on it. I'm just saying Teofimo Lopez was fully aware of what he was saying. Now, given how long this has been a staple for racists and the amount of time that the takeover professes, he spent around black people. You know, when people start talking that crap, most of the time they probably got a little bit of the goddamn sauce in them. But to me, it's virtually impossible for him to say he's unaware, right? Especially he claims, I'm from Brooklyn, which he don't even sound like he's from New York. Because I think he's actually from Miami or from Florida. I don't even know and if he is from Miami, I don't know what part, but he sounds like he's from Florida. He don't sound like he's from New York. Nothing about him. Now his dad, yeah, him, no. Now, especially seeing how funny he thought the comments were after he said it. Now, you guys are saying, those of you who are saying, man, quit being so sensitive. The fans who feel like Jaron Ennis should beat him because he's a racist, the fans are too sensitive and everyone's taking it to the stupid. Well, look, how about this? You remember years ago, what's that guy's name? The one who beat Andre Ward in the first fight, then the second fight, whatever happened in that fight. But anyway, Ward got 2 wins on Kovalev, that's his name. Kovalev got in extremely hot water. And I understand, because I saw the picture and I saw Adonis Steve. You know, when Adonis Stevenson smiles, he shows all 32 teeth. Look kind of crazy with that big-ass mouth, right? But anyway, Kovalev got into real hot water when he insinuated that Adonis Stevenson looked like a monkey. Okay, so you just have to be careful when you start, even if it's just being innocent, it's a joke. But when you start talking black people and monkeys, that shit doesn't go over well. And most recently, the person who you could never make me want to respect or talk to this dude ever or support this dude ever. Ryan Garcia, when he went on his recent racial tirade and a tirade about a litany of things, man. Let me tell you something. That people think that Ryan Garcia's racial tirade, it didn't lead to anything of substance. Let me tell you something. That shit did affect Ryan. It may not have affected him to the point to where there's somebody who wants to run up on him and punch him in his mouth, but it messed with his mentality, because now mentally Ryan Garcia is struggling, because any and everywhere he goes, he's very uncomfortable, because there are some people in those sleeper cells, when they see him, they surface and they start to press him. And I think Ryan Garcia is going to have that problem for a very long time. Even if people leave him alone, his mind is just going to eat him alive. And he created that. But anyway, bottom line when it comes to Teofimo Lopez and Boots Ennis, I think Boots Ennis stock, I think it's dropped a little bit based off his last two performances, and he's not unifying, and he's with Eddie Hearn, Eddie Hearn is trying his best to do what's best for Eddie Hearn, not what's best for Boots, in my opinion. As a result, and you gotta excuse me, man. By now y'all should know something's wrong with me, right? Going on almost 7 weeks, and this cough hasn't gone nowhere. And I'm working on it. I'll just put it to you that way. But I just think Jaron Boots Ennis stock has dropped a little bit. But really, when you look at Teofimo Lopez, I think since he lost to Kambosos, I think his stock has just never been the same, and it's dropped by a considerable margin when you look at where he was in boxing and where he's at now. That the fact that he clipped Josh Taylor in 2023, I mean, it was pretty impressive, but in my opinion, he beat him and he deserved the credit. But also, Josh Taylor, you could tell there was something off there. And I just got to be fair, because if I'm going to give Terrence Crawford the credit for beating Earl Spence, I got to give Teofimo Lopez the credit for beating Josh Taylor. Okay? But you set that aside, I think Teofimo Lopez received potentially 2 gift decisions over Sandor Martin and Jermaine Ortiz. Okay? Now, that's just my opinion. And when he fought Steve Claggett, that, in my opinion, was an extremely lackluster performance. It just wasn't the answer. But nonetheless, if he does fight Boots, or if somehow the fight doesn't happen, he fights Gervonta Davis, I'm going to tell you that Tate just doesn't seem to have much interest in messing around with Teofimo. And Crawford already said he ain't worried about him. Crawford's chasing Canelo. So, in relation to those two guys, man, I just think Lopez is kind of twisting in the wind, and that's why the Boots fight is something that, is being discussed. Because really, Teofimo Lopez don't have nowhere to go. He doesn't have nowhere to go. People could say that Devin Haney's been out here cherry picking. Teofimo Lopez has nowhere to go, and I think Eddie Hearn's got to be careful with Bob Arum, because Bob Arum still wants to protect his investments. But I kind of think Teofimo Lopez is kind of like, in the breeze and kind of burn bridges, man. And I think he's desperate. I do. I think he's desperate for a big fight, and he's just looking for the reactions, and I think he's got it. And there's some fans, and the reaction they want to give him isn't just comments in the sections of videos. They want to run up on him and put the beans on him. And if not, they're hoping that Jaron Ennis does it. But for the time being, though, we'll just sit back and see how this situation continues to unfold, and see if Jaron Ennis is actually going to offer any blowback, especially if the fight gets made and he's doing interviews for the distasteful and disappointing comments made by Teofimo. But just given Jaron Ennis like his track record, he just doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who's going to really have much to say about that. You know what I'm saying? I think if he does feel a kind of way about those comments, maybe after the fight he may say something. But he doesn't seem to be that kind of person. He's like, whatever, I'm just here to fight, and that's it. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I'm not saying I agree with Teofimo Lopez's comments, but what I will say is I have a great sense of humor, and a joke is a joke. But the shit he said, I'm not even tripping about which monkey wants to get the banana. And remember, I don't like anybody making those kind of inappropriate comments about white people, black people. It doesn't matter, right? I think it's all distasteful. But with Teofimo, it's how he was talking about top-ranking black fighters. It's just the way he said it. That shit just sounded crazy to me. Didn't sound right. But remember, I think it's wrong to speak that way about anybody. You don't have to do that. But at the same time, having a sense of humor I have where nothing's off limits. Okay, hardy ha, I get the joke. But the bottom line is, that shit can come back to bite you. Because there are a lot of people out there who don't have that sense of humor. Now, they make comments about another race and say anything they want, but when it comes to their race, some people, they don't have a funny bone. And I think that's what Teofimo Lopez is going to realize, that there's some people who just don't have a funny bone for his ass, because this is now on 2 different occasions he said stuff that's rubbed people wrong, especially when it comes to black fighters. Anyway, Jaron Boots Ennis versus Teofimo Lopez is about race to some fans. Let's see if that starts to bubble up again, if this fight gets made and the more interviews that are done with Jaron and Teofimo. Keep cool, I'm in the breeze.